Hola, buenas tardes. Welcome to my channel, Better Monday Fasting. In today's video, I'm gonna be shooting the second part of how Mexico killed my American dream. So the first video, it was more about like how Mexican culture entered my life, and this video is gonna be more about my first real visit to Mexico. So before getting started, nothing I share on this channel, it's medical advice. So please do your own research before making any health related decisions. We'll see if I talk about fasting or not in this video. Yeah, I might touch on a little bit of fasting, but it's more of a blog on my Mexican adventure. So in 2017, I moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I lived there. So I had a resident permit for a year, and then for half of a year I did like some visa run to Uruguay. And while I was going back and forth to Uruguay, kind of start liking like this nomadic life. So I decided, yeah, you know what, I should maybe buy a backpack, put all my heavy stuff in storage, and then go up to Mexico. And since I lived like 11 and a half years in San Diego, and since I left it in 2011, I've been missing it. So I had in the corner of my head, I was like, yeah, I can do this amazing Latin American trip, and then do Mexico, and then maybe one way or another cross the border and go back to San Diego. That was kind of the rough plans. And then it was like March and April, like I wanted to leave Argentina, but then I met a rhythm section, a bass player and a drummer, and then we started a band. So I kind of pushed it back a little bit. And while I was playing in that band, I actually did one of my visa runs to Uruguay to get my visa renewed. So I just wanted to see what could happen with the band. Like I've been playing in bands like since I'm 14 years old, and it's very, a functioning band is like a miracle, So I have a lot of respect for that. So like when stars align and there might be a chance with the band, I always give it a chance. Like I'll make big sacrifices to give a chance to survival for a band, because there are so many factors that can break bands apart, and I don't want to be one of them. So that's kind of my philosophy. So I was just like, I give it a shot with them. And you're in Buenos Aires, it's like it's a very rock and roll city, and like it's not like being in the US, but still, like you're in Latin America, you're in one of the, if not the best place for rock and roll, maybe one of the best. And from there, like if you a lot can happen, because the city is huge. So if things start moving in Buenos Aires, then interesting thing could happen. So I play with those guys, but we're not we're at like little like different levels of experience, and although I had the feeling that I was making an effort, like I was like, okay, they're not that experienced. I was doing most of the creative work and everything. But I was like, it had been so long that I had not played in a band. Besides my own band, Black System, where I'm the only member, pretty much. So I was like, oh yeah, I mean, sometimes you are the one who has to give, But while I was thinking that, then they had a different vision. So they kind of kicked me out of the band. I think it's the first time I was getting kicked out of a band. I was kind of surprised, but I mean, they had better opportunities as a rhythm section. And so we call it the day. Then I was like, wow, okay, now I'm, I can finally start my trip. But since I had already lost I mean, I don't want to say wasted, but I mean, like already from April to August, I mean, like some time had passed. So I was like, you know what, like instead of going, by land and do the entire Latin America, I was like, you know what, I go to Mexico because I really wanted to go to Mexico, and I was like, I start there and I see from there. So I took a flight from. So I put all my heavy belongings in storage, and my electric guitar, my bass, my juicer, my pans and pots, like things like that. And with a backpack, I went to Mexico, and I don't remember the reason why, but it was I landed in Yucatan. I landed in Mérida. Probably, I don't exactly remember, but I'm sure I was doing some research in the Mayan Riviera, and I think when I saw like Cancun and all that, I was like, maybe not very excited about that type of scene. So maybe that's why I preferred Mérida. So in August 2018, I landed in Mérida. I rented a place in a city that is a little bit outside of Mérida called Ciudad Caucel. And it was perfect for me because I actually had a house, like it was almost like a cabin, but I had a house, little tiny house with a garden, and it had like banana trees, and I could eat of the banana tree, the fruits. And yeah, it was the good thing about Ciudad Caucel is not a touristy place at all, and everything is cheaper than Mérida, and you have everything. So it's not touristy, but you have all the you have all the big grocery stores and all that. So I got there in August, like, oh my God, it was like the weather was really hot. It was really hot, and I think it was. I mean, I've been to India before, but maybe it's the first time I went to Japan. But maybe the first time I was like really in a tropical place. So I had diarrhea. I had the shits for a couple of weeks, and it took me a little while to adjust to Mexico. But so back then I had this like freelancer job, and yeah, I was really busy with work somehow. When I decided to move, like the first month, I was really busy with work. So yeah, almost like the first 4 weeks or a month, I was mostly inside working. And then I discovered this place. One day I was walking, so I was really excited because I could get like coconut water, and there was a guy selling coconut water. There was a roundabout, and he was selling coconut water. So I became really good friends with him. So I'll walk there, buy some coconut water, and on my way to his coconut stall, like I saw this place, and called Naniche, Oaxacan food, and I was like, well, I mean, what drew my attention was like the sign was handmade. You know, it was like some sort of a palm tree leaves, and they had written the name of the restaurant and the fact that they were open with fire, like burning the. So I thought, oh, that was like interesting, you know. It didn't look like a plastified sign made by a graphic designer, but it looked good, you know. And it said like talayudas. It's like, what is that? Talayuda, come on. Because in San Diego, I used to work in a Mexican restaurant, and I was lucky because my boss's vision was to make authentic Mexican food. So I was already familiar with like moles and albondigas. I mean, real chile poblano, that's like more of an ingredient, but I was already familiar with chile relleno. That's what I wanted to say. Different types of chile rellenos and different types of salsas and we're making all in-house, all of our like green salsa, the red hot salsa, the red little bit less hot salsa. We're making everything. So I already had like a good knowledge of like real Mexican food. And talayuda, I was like, what is that? And so I entered and I met this guy, and he took the time and he was like explaining to me the whole process. But he was like a university teacher, you know. Like I was like, wow, you know, it's you know, you don't necessarily expect that. I mean, he was like I could sense that he was very educated, and then he told me like what the talayuda was, and I was like, well, that's a quesadilla. He's like, no, it's like we don't use to make the dough of the corn. They don't use corn flour, but the actual corn. And I think there's a process called tamaxcalización, if I'm not butchering the word, where they put some like a stone with some minerals, and it kind of makes it it kind of helps the corn mix to stay together, so you can actually make it. You can kind of make like a dough, and you know, and then they put cheese from queso fresco from Oaxaca, and then you can. Then it was getting interesting. I mean, you can have it with meat, vegetarian. They also put some how do you call cabbage? There's cabbage. I think there's some there might be some pork like pork like a fat in it, and then they put and then you can also have it with grasshoppers, you know, chapulinas. So that's the first time I ate grasshoppers. So I was like, wow, that's great. Like he explained everything, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe one day I try. So I get out of the restaurant. I start walking to get my coconut water, and I don't remember if I got my coconut water. And on my way, no, I didn't. Like it was like I walked a few blocks, and I was like, you know what? Why leave to tomorrow what you can get done today, you know? So I got back, and I was like, yeah, I want to try the talayuda. And so that's my so the person you know, explaining me all the talayuda and preparing is like his name is Javed. Then we became really, really good friends, And the restaurant was like they had recently opened, and it was like a block and a half from where I lived, so it was very convenient. And since I had all this work and like so I will go there almost every day. And I think for them it was good because they like it was hard for them to. I think they had another location before in downtown, but in Caucel they had. It took them a while to establish themselves. Most of their clientele, they were like migrants from Oaxaca, and the local people, they were kind of skeptical about the Oaxacan food, and in my opinion, I mean the Yucatan and Oaxaca is the best cuisine, Mexican cuisine ever. But I think between them there's like a competition or something like that. And also like I think in Yucatan their food is so different from the rest of the country. I mean it's a different world, like, and they're very proud, and I think they're very hard to convince to eat something different than their own food, like. So I will see, people will come and be like, oh, what's that? And I'll see Javed explaining to them, and they'll be like, they'll make funny faces and go. Some of them will try, but it was so it was like I'll start going there every day, like, and then after a while, they start inviting me to eat the food they were cooking for themselves, more like homemade, because they had a menu. I mean, the menu was pretty limited, and on Sundays they had a weekly special, but it was mostly like talayudas but they were like they were so proud to show off a little bit like their culinary culture, that they want me to try other things. So they will invite me, and then since I was buying the coconut water, I will also like give them as a gift. Like when I go there, I will also buy extra for them. Like so we had a really good relationship. And then I find out that Javed he was actually an architect. Like sometimes he will bring like onions, like cut in cubes, like, and it was like bricks. It was like so well, like everything in that restaurant was really, I mean, you could feel that they were putting their heart into it, so then I find out that he was an architect, and I was like, oh yeah, that's where maybe that like attention to detail come from. But they were really, and also it's tropical, it's really hot, and they were so clean, because if you're not clean there, like you get like insects from everywhere. So things like cacao, they wouldn't even leave it at night in the restaurant. They would take it at home. They had another fridge there, and they were like put in plastic bags and store it there. Like, I mean, you gotta be really serious about like when I was there, I was like cooking at home. You cook, and then like after you eat, you're a bit full, and then you're like, okay, I'll do the dishes later, and then it's like the invasion starts. Like you got to be really clean. You cannot leave dirty dishes for the next day or things like that. So like so that family from Oaxaca, it was it got my attention, because when I used to be in San Diego, I used to go to San Diego City College. I was already really like interested in Mexican culture and learning Spanish, and so one of the classes for 2 semesters I took Mexican ancient history with the Olmecs and the Aztecs, and in the first semester we will study a lot. Like it seemed like everything was happening in Oaxaca, So I had that like Oaxaca. That was my first like encounter with Oaxaca. And then when I used to work later on in 2009, when I started working for my boss in San Diego, we had our probably our best worker was this guy named Juan. He'll work for 3 men, it was just amazing worker, and he was from Oaxaca. And so while we were putting the menu together, and we had a chef and all that, he wasn't very impressed. He was like, oh yeah, it's good, but, and I was like, wow, because he seemed very humble person, a worker. Probably came from the countryside of Oaxaca, but his taste was very high level. It was he wasn't. It was hard to convince. And sometimes he will make me stuff very easy. He's like, in Oaxaca we make that, and eggs and things like that, and it was really good. It was really I could tell that he had a palate, So the anthropology course, Juan, and now I met this Javed and his family, and they're from Oaxaca, and I had freshly started my nomadic life. So my idea was to travel, with my backpack. So that was my plan, and I wanted to, because I'm a little romantic guy. I want I don't know. It's I was blessed with a life. I mean, that is. That I considered, with all modesty, that is out of a movie almost, because I was born in Turkey, I grew up in Switzerland, then I went to the US, then I went to Latin America and all that, and so after a while, I start seeing my, got a little bit conscious of that. With your life, you're writing your story, it's the case for anybody, but just I was fortunate that some events happened. I wasn't born a polyglot, and I want to discover the world. I never had dreams like that, but somehow life made it that, when I was 7 years old, I changed, a big change in environment, and then I wanted to rock out. So when my band in Switzerland split up, I was really sad. So I wanted to, I'm gonna live my dream. I'm not gonna give up my dream. So I took my bass on my back and I went to the US, and I eventually played in bands and got signed and did some tours, and so I lived the time I spent in the US was was really out of a movie on its own, that whole 11.5 years with ups and downs and crazy things happening. And so after a while, you get a sense that, some of it is luck, but after a while you get this sense that you're in control, every decision you're gonna make, you start getting a sense that if it's gonna contribute to the story or not. Little things if you travel in first class, it's gonna be very convenient, but maybe it's not gonna do much for the story. But if you're hitchhiking, or there are more chance that things might happen. It's a little bit like that. So you're not in control of everything, but there are certain things you're in control. So my thing is and I also really believe in patterns. I'm a musician, and I believe in patterns, and also with fasting, I speak a lot of about fasting patterns. And in order to build patterns, you need algorithm, so my algorithm for traveling, I decided to, you know what? I'm not just gonna pick like random. I'm not gonna just pick like random locations, or I'm not gonna be influenced by people saying like, oh, this is a good place, you should visit. Like, but I'm gonna go to one place, have my own, write my own history there, and somehow connect that place with the next one. So I was kind of in that mindset, you know. I want to connect my story, you know, and that motive, that pattern of Oaxaca happening for the third time in my life, entering my life for the third time. I was like, you know what? That's a call. That's a sign. I need to go to Oaxaca. So while I was still in Mérida, like I stayed there, like in Caucel, I stayed like 2 months, maybe a little bit more. But little by little, you know, by seeing Javed, his mom, his sister, being with people from Oaxaca, super proud. Like they were like, each time it was like they were like promoting, and Javed would be like, because yeah, he's an intellectual guy, and he likes literature, art, and he keeps things, like it's just like amazing guy. So he had all these like magazines and brochures that he kept from Oaxaca, and I couldn't really understand. He was super proud to be from Oaxaca, but for some reason, I think for a girl, like he migrated to Yucatan, and now like it was hard to understand why. Like I was like, several times, like, if you like it so much, why you're not going back, you know? And but I could never figure out, like, so he wanted to stay in Mérida, but so then I was like, okay, you know, I'm in Yucatan, and my next destination is going to be Oaxaca. So after the 2 months passed by, so I wanted to do everything by land, and that's what I did later on. But I think the only time I took a flight, it was just like before booking my bus ticket. Like I just did a online search, and there was this plane ticket that was like really cheap. It was almost the same price. So I took that flight. Like that was actually my first trip in Mexico. Happened to be by air. But then almost I went to Mexico 6 times, and almost all my travels I did by land, because after a while I also incorporated music, playing first as a street musician, and then as getting legit shows. So that was my first time, like that was like my first time in Mexico, first time in Mérida, and I decided to go to Oaxaca. And what I'm like noticing right now is, like, you know, I thought I'll be able with 2 videos, like to I will be able to, with 2 videos, to go over my entire Mexican experience, but I think that's impossible. So what I'm gonna do, inspiration just came, so I'm gonna start a playlist called like how Mexico kept my American dream, and then I'll do maybe city by city, because it's just I mean, in total I lived there like 3.5 years, in total. I visited 6 times, and a lot of things happen. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go in detail. Like if I'm gonna paste it like that, the way I did this video. So I'm gonna do that playlist. Will be separate from the fasting vlogs, and then I do, so like this one will be, I guess it will be Mérida, like first visit, and then I'll go from there. So I already have the introduction video, I have this one, and the playlist will be called How Mexico Killed My American Dream. As you see, we do everything on the fly here, so we we create as we go. So yeah, I'm gonna do it like that because I cannot wrap. I mean, I could do like, you know, an overview, but I think it's a good story, and the country is so beautiful, so inspiring, and I had a lot of things happen. I mean, not only good things. Yeah, probably in the next video I'll tell you about the not so good things that happened to me, but they ended up having great results. So it's bad things happen, but it was actually very beneficial for me. So yeah, so hopefully I'll see you in the next video of this series, and you can watch. I'm going to put the link for the previous one. Thank you for watching.